Okay, so welcome to the CentreCourt MBA Festival in Los Angeles, and as with each of the CentreCourt events, we'd like to embed that sort of insight from the admissions office. So the admissions director panel, very in great company for this, and we'd like to introduce all of the panelists, starting with Ruthie Piles, who's the Assistant Dean and also the Director of MBA Admissions at WashU in Olin. It's good that you can be here because you're sending your students out to all over the world, but you're actually in the US today, so we're glad that you're with us.
Thank you.
Camilla Morgan, who is the Director of Admissions for the Executive MBA program at Cornell. Cornell's got a tremendous suite of MBA programs, Cornell Tech 1 year, 2 year, and the Exec MBA, so it's great to have your perspectives as well on that part of the market. And then traveling further than anybody else to the Los Angeles event today is Alex Lawrence, who's the Assistant Dean of MBA Admissions at UCLA Anderson. Its reading season is coming up with round one deadlines just a week or two away, and Alex, I think you'll be sitting comfortably for the next couple of weeks with that foot in a cast, right?
Yes, exactly.
and it was a very glamorous accident, I'm sure. You did it surfing or something cool.
Line dancing, a little salsa dancing for the locals, you know. I went right, they went left.
So, as you head into round one, and we've had a year, some of the schools have been seeing record high applications in the last 2-3 years. Perhaps this year a little more challenging, certainly for the international market. But Ruthie, what are you seeing at Olin?
Yeah, I would say that we're certainly seeing many things that the other schools are seeing. I would say that the quality of applications that we're seeing has certainly not changed. What we're really excited about is we spent about a year, this past year, really looking at why students are really drawn to Olin, what it was about our experience that was really attractive to them. And what we found was that our brand proposition and kind of who we are was exactly what we were attracting. So we found that students that were really being pulled into Olin were individuals that were really interested in global competency and perception, innovative and entrepreneurial thinking, very interested in our experiential learning opportunities, and then of course individuals that have a really strong interest in kind of values-based, data-driven decision making. I think that, I don't know whether it's St. Louis that has about 25% of our population that volunteers, or the fact that we have a #1 social work school that is at WashU, the fact that where serious work gets done and people matter, which is kind of WashU's motto, but we're really seeing individuals that are very interested in kind of understanding that global perception, really wanting to be in a place where they know that they're going to be taught that authenticity matters. And so we're seeing that being reflected in our applications. So we're very, very excited about that.
Now, all three schools on the panel have a wonderful business school within the heart of a wonderful institution, the university itself. What difference does that make to that sort of interaction between the business school and the rest of the institution?
Well, I think it's very important. I mean, I think that certainly one doesn't exist without the other. Being at WashU, it's an incredibly academically focused institution, research-based, strong commitment to excellence, integrity, ethics. And so I think that those are the similar things that you'll find at Olin. So it's a great community. It's a school that's very invested in its community. And I think that you find that reach really happens within all of the business schools that are there, and that commitment to excellence. I mean, we have 7 departments on campus, and out of those, 5 of which are highly ranked. So I think that that's also a really important indication of who we are.
Now, Cornell's appetite for campuses, campi, the move to Roosevelt Island, that's brought another dimension. What impact is that having on the Cornell offering?
It's having a tremendous impact. Roosevelt Island is an amazing place. It's an educational opportunity unlike really any other. And as you talk about that impact across the different academic programs at our Cornell Tech campus, we have MBA students working on projects on a daily basis with engineering students and computer science students. So they're not just in an MBA class surrounded by MBA students day after day. They're working across disciplines to create business ideas and unique opportunities. So that cross-collaboration across programs is critical to the success and really the key to Cornell Tech.
And having that proximity, or now being in New York, you've also one of the first US schools to pilot the 1 year course length for the MBA program. Is there a sort of a separate demand for the one-year program? Do you see that growing and growing in the years ahead?
So the Cornell Tech MBA is a one-year program. We also still have our one-year MBA program on the Cornell campus in Ithaca, and demand for both programs is very strong. The tech program has more of a tech focus that is more targeted towards students who are interested in entrepreneurship and innovation in a very different style of learning, whereas our one-year program on campus is a more traditional MBA experience at an accelerated one-year pace.
Alex, neighbours in the north might have been having fun with technology in the last few years, but I mean, Anderson's had an incredible few years, and just Southern California in general, that must be attracting a lot of interest to the MBA at Anderson.
Definitely, excuse me, definitely we've been fortunate that we've seen increased demand for our program. Our applications have been up the last couple of years, but just being in the ecosystem of UCLA, for those students, they will tell you that there's a lot of opportunities on the Anderson campus as well as off the Anderson campus. Being here in Los Angeles is an exciting place to be. We have the Silicon Beach area. Of course, we have a number of great Fortune 500 companies. It's a great environment on the entrepreneurial side of things. So, tech is a big driver of it, that intersection of technology and a lot of different industries. So, just coming to the school itself opens up a lot of sort of opportunities that many of the students necessarily didn't think about before when they were applying. They could still focus on the ones that they did, but just coming there learning even more things to take advantage of.
Right. Anderson had faculty doing research on Netflix when it was just still this small emerging company. Now it's become a tech giant. Does that sort of reflect a different take on technology that's sort of specific to LA and what students can then expect at Anderson?
Yeah, so one of our new research centers, it's really 3 years old now, is the Easton Technology Center. And we are always trying to take advantage, or at least being on the cutting edge, of what's the driving demand of not only just the students, but just the marketplace in general. So students do take advantage of a lot of the resources that research does provide. There is a faculty director, obviously, who oversees that program, but there are a number of workshops, speaker series, mentorship programs, courses, and the center works in close collaboration with our career management center. So again, what I imagine a lot of those sitting out in the audience and who may be watching this later, they're probably coming from some enterprises or large-scale organizations, so you might be interested in looking at startups or smaller institutions. So Anderson does provide those opportunities where you can do academic internships in addition to the summer internship opportunities to kind of see what is it like working at a startup before actually sort of going a little bit deeper into the pool of doing the summer internship or making a full-time commitment after you graduate.
So Olin students are getting, 31 days of international experience as they start the program. And you talked about, the branding was spot on because the applicants had already identified those sort of core values at the school. So if we pull back the curtain on admissions and, round one is just ahead of us, are you then looking for that sort of global mindset or that value system? Talk us a little bit through what happens once all of those applications come in and what you're looking for.
Sure, absolutely. So, of course, we follow a similar process that many schools do. So somebody applies, their application is read by one of our file reviewers, then it goes to committee. Individuals are then offered the opportunity to interview with us, where we gain additional insight into who they are, what they love, what they're passionate about, what gets them excited, and then we take that and then it goes through 2 committees, and that final committee is certainly when that decision is certainly made. So as far as kind of that process is concerned, I would say that it's pretty rigorous, and that we're really looking for individuals that are excited about what we have to offer and what our value proposition is. I will say that we love and we have students that really want to have a voice, that want to really be a part of a tight-knit community, that really want to have that global perspective regardless of whether they plan to stay here in the United States or work abroad or work for an international company or a domestic company. Having that global competency and that global focus is really important to them. They understand the value of that, but they also understand the importance of making those really good decisions, being a leader for good. And I think that we see the passions of those students really come out in those essays and in their interviews, and we're really looking for those students that that are coming to Olin because they want all of that wrapped together. They really want to be not only a data-driven individual in business, right, a powerhouse, but they also want to be making decisions because they know that while every decision that they make may not change the world, every decision that they make has the potential for difference, right? Short or long term, personal, far-reaching, right? So those are the individuals that are really being drawn to Olin.
Great stuff. Camilla, we're going to have you as the spokesperson for that audience that either are thinking still about the full-time MBA program, they might be a slightly older applicant compared to some of the averages, or the exec MBA could be the next option. Perhaps even some advice in terms of the 32, 33-year-old, 35 thinking about business school. How do you help to sort of guide them in their choices? What might be right for them at that point?
Yes, that's a tricky kind of age range, experience range to be in because your options are even greater. It's a hard enough decision as it is to choose a school, but then when you have to really choose what type of program, it complicates it even more. Of course, in terms of choosing a school, many of the things that Ruthie was speaking to apply. Finding a school that resonates with you, their culture resonates with your interests, with what is important to you, what you value, has the academic rigor, has the coursework that aligns with your goals and your needs. All of that is the same. Then I think it's thinking a lot about your goals and what you're looking to do once you leave business school. So for those people who are in their early 30s that are looking to make a bigger career change coming out of the MBA experience, I would encourage them to think more about the full-time MBA programs, because with those programs you get a larger concentration of electives, internship opportunities, and they're, I'd say in most instances, more designed for that career change. If you're in that experience and age range though, that you like what you're doing, you like your industry, but you're looking for that catalyst that's going to move you into a management or a leadership position, the executive may be an option for you to take more seriously, as you can continue to work while you're earning your degree and you're gaining those same core business fundamentals. We don't offer the internships, we have fewer electives in the executive programs, but it's a well-rounded general management experience to help with career acceleration.
Right. And you talk about that sort of transition that many might be looking to then achieve through the full-time format. If you're 32, 33, and then talking about getting a job at a strategy consulting firm coming out. I mean, often McKinsey's looking at sort of level 2 associates who are late 20s when they come out of business school. So any advice for that sort of audience in terms of how they sort of share their career goals and what you as a team are then looking for?
We want people to be very honest with us about their career goals, and if someone is coming to us with that goal, which I'm not going to say is impossible, but it will be more difficult, we're going to have a frank conversation. We're going to talk more about the goal, what it will take to achieve it. We've developed phenomenal career resources to help our executive MBA students facilitate their career goals and their career changes, but it takes a lot of work, and we want people to come in with their eyes open as to whether or not it's going to be a likely outcome. So ultimately, it will be their decision if they want to take that risk and try it, but we're going to have a frank dialogue and ensure that the students coming in really understand the likelihood of a career change like that through an executive program.
Alex, we're going to talk about GMAT scores, recommenders, but just that sort of bigger, broader sense. We're talking about schools that each have a distinct personality and an underlying DNA. And you attract top talent that is looking at many of the world's top business schools. So how are you then able to discern that they've really kind of connected with Anderson and who you are?
Yeah, sure. So I think, it was funny because I was at an event last night and people were asking, how does Anderson define success? What are we looking for in the ideal candidate? For us, like most top schools that are here represented today, we're looking for people who have evidence of success in a variety of different ways, academically, professionally. For Anderson, we're big on community involvement. So we're looking for evidence where people have contributed to community. When you come to our campus, you're going to see that students really roll up their sleeves and really get involved with the school. So you don't necessarily have to, say, have multiple promotions at your work position, but we're looking for increased responsibilities. You may not necessarily be involved with a volunteer activity right now, but we're looking for things that people extending themselves beyond just sort of the day-to-day activities. And quite honestly, that goes back to when you were in undergrad. Were you just a member of a student club, or did you hold a leadership position? Not everybody needs to be the president of an organization, but we want to find out what your passion is about. We're a very diverse community. We're not just, say, a finance school or just a tech school. So when we're reading those applications, and again, in a very holistic way, it's not always about high GMAT scores or high GPAs. We're looking for people who have had different levels of success in a number of different dimensions, and then also what's their community involvement, because those are the best people who we've admitted and who are alumni. They've contributed back to the school in a variety of different ways. That's where the best courses are developed, the best conferences, and even as alumni, some of the best supporters who are willing to sort of bring in the new generation of Anderson students.
So obviously it would be great if every applicant could show up in Los Angeles or come to St. Louis and check out the campus in Ithaca. You've all got 3 great locations. What are the other opportunities? Bearing in mind an audience, not just those here with us today in Los Angeles, but an international audience, to kind of connect with each of your schools. Alex, we'll start with you.
Sure, absolutely. So one thing I always point individuals to is check out our website. We put a lot of effort and information in a variety of different ways. There's a lot of voices represented there, a lot of different profiles, students, alumni, faculty as well. So you can really get at least a decent idea of who we are. Then we travel around the globe. I was in Tokyo and India 2 weeks ago. We have people in Asia and Latin America right now, so we actually go out to a lot of those international communities. But then we also, in a virtual sense, allow people to connect with a student. So we have a portal that connects directly to our student ambassadors. They manage that site. You put in as much or little information as you want. If you want to talk to a student that's focusing on entrepreneurship, finance, or some other area, again, they're going to do the best to match you with that student, and so then you can continue the conversation, and that extends to the faculty and alumni as well.
We can tell we're in downtown LA for this event, right? We've got a good backdrop for it. They're coming to get you. An essay that says, why do you want to come to Cornell? Just sort of filling that 5th paragraph with electives that you want to take. I mean, you're looking for something perhaps a little deeper. I could look at your website now and cut and paste 3 electives. So how can you really tell when someone's done that research and made the connection with the school?
You absolutely can, through the essay and also through the interview and the conversation that you have with someone when you ask them why Cornell. I think in addition to taking advantage of the information on the website, coming to see us. You don't necessarily need to come to us. We're in lots of different places. And also by talking to our current students and alumni, you can get a really good feel for the culture and the community. So it's not so much, I really want to take this elective or study with this faculty member. It's about, in the conversations I've had and the experiences that I've had while engaging with Cornell, I've picked up on certain aspects of the community and the culture that resonate with you and align with your values. That's much more valuable than you went to a website and found a course. So I would definitely have those conversations, talk to as many students and alumni as you can. We'll connect you with people. Go to LinkedIn and find people. You'll find that people, if you reach out to them, will get back to you. They want to talk about their school and their experience. So we'll help you, but sometimes cold calling some alums is also a great way to get some insights.
As an 18-year-old at the Port Authority in New York, the first Greyhound I ever took stopped in St. Louis. And I got to see my first baseball game, and I think I ate my first frozen yogurt. So obviously it sticks in mind. But I mean, a campus visit is a great way to really get a sense of that community. So if you can't visit, what are the other alternatives for the school?
Yeah, no, I think so many of the things that my colleagues have mentioned, such as engaging with ambassadors, reaching out to alumni, I think that all of us feel that our alums and the individuals that are connected to our school are very eager to talk about their school, right? To talk about their experience, and also to help you on your journey and whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. I think the most important thing for you to know and understand is that we want you to find the place that's right for you. And so so by engaging with us, reaching out to faculty, staff, students, please do so. We all are very eager, and I often get a lot of emails forwarded to me by individuals who have reached out to faculty or alums or things like that, and they're like, hey, I talked to this great person, they're from LA, and I know you used to live there for a short period of time. Can you talk to them? Sure, absolutely, happy to do that. The other thing that's really unique, I would say, about Olin specifically is that we really personalize the experience. So we have a recruiter that is specifically assigned to your application. So you have your very own person on my staff at Olin that is your advocate, the person that is looking out for you. And that person's really there to just help guide you. They're there to make sure that you get connected, that you have all of the things that you need in order to make a good decision about where you want to go to school. So we really do try to personalize the experience as much as possible.
Please, Alex.
I know I didn't mention it, but we all have it, social media,
oh,
right?
Yeah.
The Facebooks, the Instagrams, and things of that nature that many people can look at for, like, say, day in the life of a student, or what else is going on the campus, faculty research courses being offered, and things like that. So I'm like, yes, exactly. So I'm like, I better throw that softball out there that represents all of us.
So looking at those social media accounts and seeing people just like me, the previous generation, and thinking, well, the business school could be for me. If we look at the last 5 years, of course, some of you have seen double-digit growth in application volume. This year has been trickier. And maybe just speaking briefly again to an international audience, thinking about investing in themselves, investing in their business education. And very easily we can distort messages about upcoming midterm elections, H1B visas, and it can be very difficult to sort of pick our way through. What is the actual reality that you're seeing for current students, the graduating classes, and any message that you might have for international applicants, looking at the 2-year MBA program? Alex, do you want to start with that one?
Sure, I'll start. One thing that I would highly encourage, especially the international audience, is to talk to current students. And when I go overseas, I always talk with the current students representing the different countries at our school, and they always want me to share that they're having a great experience. So a lot of the lens, the media lens that sort of overseas are looking at the U.S. in general may not necessarily, or definitely is not reflected on our UCLA Anderson campus, and I'm sure at your campuses as well. So our students, our international students, talk about them being welcomed by the domestic students. They talk about the different programs to help them get acclimated to the school, the region, the area. They talk about the career services, because quite honestly, that is probably the top priority that any student, whether it be domestic or international, is looking at business school. So they want me to talk to the prospectives and saying, like, please, one, tell them to talk to me because I can talk about what it's like being a student from India, China, etc., and then all the services and the experiences that I have. And then from an administrative standpoint, everything like you mentioned before, we know some of the challenges that are sort of like out of our control, visas, for one thing. And I think that's when you have to encourage the applicants to definitely look at outcomes, employment, placement outcomes, because again, it's 2 years. It seems like it's a long time frame, but that time frame goes by really fast. And even if you have a plan B, well, you need to have a plan B, because there may not be a lot of time to recover if things necessarily don't go your way that are even out of your control, for example, like the economy.
Camilla, what would you add to that?
So I don't experience it as much from the residential MBA side, but I do have a lot of conversations with candidates living and working in the U.S. on an H1B visa who are a bit hesitant to jump into an MBA program, asking themselves the what ifs. What if I lose my job? What if I lose my visa? What should I do? So it definitely is a concern for them as well. And similar to what Alex said, we encourage them to talk to other students who have been in that situation. We let them know about our career resources and how we will help them should they find themselves in that sort of situation. But it is a concern as well for people who are here right now that have some uncertainty.
Ruthie, would you add anything to that?
I certainly would. I would just say that we're a smaller class, so we have about anywhere between 130 to 150 in our class every year. And this year we had 26 countries represented and roughly around 32% or so international. So I think it shows that we really want to bring people from all over the world because we understand the importance that brings to the classroom, the voices that they bring. In fact, there was a blog post this morning, or recently, I should say, that we posted on our Olin blog that we're launching our first Africa in Business class to really talk about what's happening in Africa and how that affects different global economies. And so, I think that it's important to understand that while there may be challenges from, visa perceptions and certainly employment opportunities, there is still a wealth of knowledge and desire to bring the global focus to the United States, to our campuses, to ensure that you feel, welcomed and that you have a voice in our communities. And so I think that's really important for our viewers that are watching from around the world to understand that your voice matters here and you are welcome, and there is a lot of great opportunities to learn things from the individuals that you're in the classroom with. So.
Alex, you talk about outcomes, and they're not just financial, that's part of it too, but it's also opportunities that opens up in terms of your career, where the MBA can take you next. And with what record low unemployment in the US, there's still the constant search for great talent, right? And you're feeding right into that. So 3 very selective schools. Now let's sort of think, how do I get into these great schools? Starting with the resume, you have lots of fast-track professional performance, academic vitality. What's the first thing that you read on a resume? Do you start up at the top, or is there a line down in the extracurriculars that always captures your attention? Camilla.
I typically start at the bottom. I start at the bottom and work my way up. It's helpful, really looking for your career growth and your career progression. So it's best to go from the bottom up, in my opinion. Looking to see what you've done in your career, looking to see the choices, the transitions that you've made. Do they make sense? If they don't, that's a great topic for us to talk about in the interview, basically to see how you got to where you are today. It's also helpful to see your interests and your extracurriculars as well. It's nice to know what drives you outside of the workplace. So please do make sure to include those as well. But I'm really looking to see your career transitions and how you've progressed over the years.
Alex, do you have a favorite place to start on a resume?
Yeah, sure. I think Camilo stole a lot of the things that I was going to say, but I will say about that, I always look for the interest part. So, a majority of people do put it at the bottom. Some may put it at the top, but I'm looking for some unique things about the person, but then I'm also looking for the resume to tell a story, definitely on the career side, where they're coming from. In particular, I'm always interested to kind of see and try to figure out, like, okay, this is somebody who maybe grew up on the East Coast and then made their way over to the West Coast or West Coast, and how they may have come back. So I'm kind of starting a little bit all over the place, but usually I'm kind of starting at the bottom because that's where the interest part are, and the hobbies and things of that nature.
Individual reading, I mean, it's part of a bigger team that and then sort of saying, hey, have you seen how they made this move? I wonder what was sort of the thoughts behind that. It's a very communal sort of approach, right? Oh,
absolutely, yeah. What's great about having an admissions committee is it's often made up of people that are, that have different interests, right? Different stakeholders, right? So people that are in the career center, people that potentially are on your student affairs team, faculty members, and it's interesting when you get in the committee to kind of see what everybody finds in an application, and that's why we have it. That's why we have diversity on our admissions committees, is because somebody sees something different. I'm like them, where I'm looking to, oh wow, they've traveled to all these places, or look at how many languages they know, or oh my gosh, they surf and they snowboard and they do this, right? I mean, that's the stuff that I gravitate towards, but other people will be like, oh my gosh, did you see that they were in that position for that particular company? That's really interesting, right? So everybody's looking at something different. So just know that while some of us may have favorite things that we jump down to, you do have a committee that's really looking at all of those things that make up your resume, such as career progression, what have those outcomes have been, what are the projects that you've been working on, what are your accomplishments, and so all of that is certainly picked up in the committee.
And of course, academics playing that role, the M of the MBA, it's a master's program, you're going to be handling discounted cash flow and much other stuff. So the GMAT and the GRE, we've seen GMAT scores that just continue to edge up. It's, you can take the test again after 16 days. Where does this stop? And for your holistic approach, how do you contextualialize the GMAT? What's the importance of the GMAT at Anderson?
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier. It's one part of the application. It's, we have a holistic approach like most schools. It is a place that doesn't necessarily always have to start at the GMAT score or the GRE score. But the reality is, especially on the employment side, is that some industries are making their cutoffs at a specific GMAT score. Management consulting firms, possibly in the finance industry, some banks. So not that we're basing our admit or deny decisions based off, say, somebody's GMAT scores. For us, it's always thinking about how we can help that person get to the next point in their career after business school. So if perhaps, say, a test score or career experience or what have you doesn't necessarily help translate to how we can help them get to that point, then it's possibly maybe somebody that we will not admit.
So if I tell Cornell that I want to go into a social enterprise or a product manager role in tech, then can I get away with a lower GMAT score than if I said McKinsey, Bain, and BCG on that application?
Difficult for me to answer. Just from the executive side, we actually don't require the GMAT. On the residential MBA side, it obviously is a requirement, the GMAT or the GRE. As Alex was saying, and you indicated in the question, if you are looking to go into a big consulting area, the GMAT is important not only to us, but to them as well, so that does make a difference. On the executive MBA side, as I said, we don't require it, but we do ask some candidates to take it. So we look at your academic undergraduate record as a starting point for our assessment of your academic readiness, and if there are holes or if you had some difficulties, we will then ask for it on a case-by-case basis.
And, sorry, if I can add too, I totally agree with what you were saying, Camila. And me and Ruth, you were talking earlier, just even looking back at the college space, with ACTs and SAT scores, most schools don't necessarily have a cutoff period, but it's the pool of candidates. How are you being measured against other candidates who may be coming from a specific industry or a certain region of the world? Again, I don't think any school has sort of a cutoff. We will not admit you, but the reality is, you just mentioned it, there's GMAT inflation going on. Scores keep getting higher and higher as more global candidates from different parts of the world are becoming and looking more competitive and thinking about getting an MBA. So I think another thing that, at least at Anderson, we would be interested in is that while based off the scenario that you described, they want to go into a specific area where the GMAT score or GRE score doesn't translate, what's the plan B? What if I can't get that position based off of my profile? We would love to hear what your plan B would be with regards to that.
And if you're an applicant that had 4 very successful years at undergrad, doing very well in your career, but you just don't test well, are there other good ways to then sort of demonstrate to you, well, yeah, he or she can handle the numbers too?
That was me. I had a great GPA, and boy, I took the GRE and the GMAT, and man, ooh. So look, I hear you. I've been there. I've taken these tests before. I know what it's like, and I think that it's important for you to realize that this is a humanistic process. We're humans too. We've gone through this before. We know what you're going through, and we know that each and every one of you brings a tremendous strength to any cohort that you're going to join or potentially join, right? So I think that it's important that if you've demonstrated really strong quantitative abilities and qualitative abilities in your undergraduate transcript, but maybe just are struggling with the test scores, there's always other ways that you can demonstrate those abilities. You can take community college courses. There's tons of prep courses out there that you could certainly take. Get to know the people at the school that you're really interested in going to, talk to them, let them know who you are, knock your interview out of the park. I mean, these are all things that you can do to really strengthen your application. And the other thing that we haven't really talked about is remember too that, oftentimes the school will potentially reach out to you to say, hey, do you want to retake? Do you want to retake the GMAT or the GRE? Especially if you've indicated that scholarships are really important to you, right? If scholarships are important, remember at many schools they're merit-based. So, we may be working with you to kind of say, okay, well let's try to move that up a little bit, or let's see what we can do. But it doesn't mean that you're out of the scholarship race. It just means that we really do want to work with you to make sure that you're the most competitive applicant that you can possibly be. And so just know that we want you to be successful. We really honestly do. We care about you and where you're going, and whether you decide to go to WashU Olin or whether you go to UCLA or wherever you decide to go, we want you to be successful. So I think that, it's not the end all be all if you haven't gotten that perfect score, but it is something that you want to have a conversation about.
Perhaps at Cornell in the executive MBA program with 10, 12 years of professional experience, it might be easy to sort of look at the letters of recommendation and say, well, they're all enthusiastic, they all kind of say the same thing, but a great letter of recommendation can really break through and share sort of insights and perspectives of enormous value for the admissions office, right?
Absolutely. More often than not, the letters are certainly positive. Oftentimes it's those exceptional letters that stand out, or often it's what the letters don't say that stands out more than what they do say. In a bad way, usually. So if a letter is extremely short or just very factual versus going into some specific details about experiences or contributions that you've made, that's a bit of a concern, not only of the lack of the detail in the letter, but your judgment about why you might have chosen that letter writer if he or she is not really writing a glowing recommendation on your behalf. I really appreciate it when our recommenders state a weakness. That is something that we ask them to do, to describe a weakness for the candidate. Not that we go back to the candidate in the interview and says, so-and-so said you, by the way. But when we ask you that question in the interview, it's interesting to see if there's alignment and a self-awareness of what others see in you. The letters, for the most part, are positive, but they do give us some very valuable information, and if nothing else, they give us some topics that we'll take further with you in the interview stage.
And you're reading thousands of resumes, so you kind of know what the day job is. Alex, any sort of advice that you'd give for recommenders and the sort of content that really has value for you?
Yeah, sure. So, a lot of the schools have been incorporating what we call like a common letter of recommendation. Much more schools. So, information like Camila was saying, like looking for things that maybe challenging situations. How did the individual respond in terms of getting feedback? How does that person stand out amongst their peers? Those are those qualitative pieces that we're looking for. And then one thing I wanted to add to that list that you mentioned of the things that a recommender would give us cause for concern. Ones that basically say, I do not recommend this person for an MBA program. Yeah, that does happen. I'm sure, they're both shaking their heads. We do read that, and, while a lot of times out in the audience, I even see now people are smiling, like, why would anybody do that? It's like, I guess my public service announcement would be to put the time and effort into the people who are going to be writing your letters of recommendation. No, don't write it for them, but give them enough time, give them information that's going to help them be the best judge for you in this process, because you may not be the only person who is applying to business school. They may be writing 2 or 3 letters of recommendation, and I'm sure with all of our programs, if we don't have a complete application, including letters of recommendation submitted on time, then we're not going to go ahead and evaluate the application itself. So, put the time and effort into it, because, and again, I'm only going to speak about Anderson. When we do get sort of those situations where somebody says, I do not recommend this person for admission, I'll go ahead and go through and call up that person who wrote the letter of recommendation, get some more information, because that may not necessarily be sort of the part of the decision on why the person was going to be denied.
Now, Ingrid reminds me that we're coming to a close. We didn't get a chance for Q&A, but that's going to be the meet and greet session when Alex, Camilla, Ruthie are joined by representatives of other top schools. So you won't need to ask them about recommendations or GMAT scores, right? Because we've covered all of those things. Thanks, all 3 of you, for the insights and advice that you've shared. Thanks for this audience and for everyone that's connected with us and watching live. Coming up is John Byrne, the editor-in-chief at Poets and Quants, who is having a fireside chat with the dean of UC Irvine, the Mirage School. I don't know where the fireside is. I hope he's not going to start a fire. So 30 minutes. And then before the meet and greet, we're going to have all of the schools up on the stage just to introduce themselves, to step on Alex's foot and maybe just say a word or 2 about their school, to then be able to talk with them for the rest of the afternoon. So thanks all 3 of you for the panel.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.